Hi, this is Dr. Swapna, and I welcome you to your Learn Lab. If you are an IGNOU student looking for help in your studies, then you have reached the right place. Here, we have lecture videos on different core and elective subjects of important IGNOU courses. We aim to help you ace your exams. So, hit subscribe to our channel, and as you watch, make sure to like and share too. Come and join me on this beautiful learning journey.
In this video, we are going to do Unit 7, which is Police Psychology, and this is a unit from Block 3, which is titled Criminal Psychology. In this session, we'll understand how psychology is applied in policing, from recruitment and personality assessment to handling stress and building human relationships. A lot of it is going to be repetition of what you have already studied in other units, so this should be fairly easier for you. So let's move ahead and see what is there in this unit. So we'll see what is police psychology, what are the functions of a police psychologist, what is a police personality, about police stress, and the human relationships that police have. Let's look further. Let's see first of all what is police psychology. And by now you can guess the definition. It is the application of psychological principles to law enforcement. This involves recruitment, assessment, counseling, stress management, training, and consultation among the police forces. According to the American Psychology Association, police psychology is the application of psychological principles and methods to law enforcement, or simply called policing. So, in simple words, it's about helping police officers perform better, stay mentally healthy, and manage the pressures of such a challenging profession. What are the functions of a police psychologist? They play multiple roles. Let's look at each of them. First of all, it's screening and hiring police officers. So they evaluate if candidates are mentally fit for this demanding job. If they are not, then they suggest that those people should not be recruited. And if they feel that someone is mentally fit enough to take that stress and that job, and then they recommend such people to be selected for the forces. The second would be conducting psychological evaluations and fitness for duty. This is for checking their emotional fitness for duty, because we know what kind of a taxing job being in police forces are, right? The third would be hostage negotiations and stress counseling, or other critical operations where calm thinking is needed, where you have to keep a cool head, right? And fourth, they conduct training programs on motivation, human relations, and crisis management, also stress management, all of these things, right? And lastly, they also offer counseling and consultation for police personnel and their families. So essentially, they act as both psychologists and performance enhancers for the entire police system. So, what kind of a personality should a person in a police force should have? Police officers need a distinct personality to survive and succeed in their job. And two major personality traits stand out, which is social responsibility and conscientiousness. Social responsibility, we all understand, it is being responsible towards the society to maintain the law and order. Conscientiousness means it's like wanting to do the job in the best way possible. You know, you are answerable to your conscience that the person should want to be the best when they are on duty, do their best, right, to uphold the law. So that is conscientiousness. So they are expected to be alert, disciplined, and responsible for public safety. But you know, because of constant pressure to, or the constant exposure to risk and criticism, we know that police people face a lot of criticism, right? So because of this, you know, constant criticism and almost always exposed to risk, many officers develop what's known as a policeman's working personality, right? And this working personality includes traits like cynicism. They think, I mean, they have a negative comment on almost everything. This is cynicism, right? Being cynical about every single thing, being suspicious of everyone, aloofness, or you know, staying away from the society or maybe a group, and emotional detachment. So these generally act as psychological shields that help them cope with the dangerous and unpredictable nature of their work. So in their working personality, they are adapted to risk, danger, and authority. And the challenges in this include stress, isolation, cynicism, and emotional detachment. However, when this becomes extreme, it can lead to police stress or prejudice. For example, forming stereotypes about certain communities, or maybe, what do you say, stereotypes. I hope you understand what a stereotype. So when you're hearing about a particular community, in your head you have a pre, what do you say, an impression, right? Okay, this community should be like this. I mean, it could be negative also, it could be positive also. That is a stereotype. Or maybe a very unrelated example of stereotype would be, if you see a female driving on the road, you will say, oh God, she's driving. She's not going to be driving well. I mean, any mistake happens, you will just seriously point out on the female, right? That's a general tendency that I've seen. And that is the best example of a stereotype that I can tell you. So, police people, when they have been working on the roles for a very long time, it's pretty much possible that they also generalize these kind of stereotypes. So here, awareness and training is the key. Now let's talk about police stress, one of the most crucial topics in this unit. So stress has been defined by Lazarus and Folkman in 1984 as a relationship between person and environment, appraised as taxing or exceeding resources. So again, let me repeat. It's a relationship between a person and the environment that is perceived as taxing or understood as tiring or exceeding one's resources, which means more than what a person can handle. Right? So again, if we simplify the definition, this would be a relationship between a person and environment which the person appraises as or understands as or perceives as taxing, which is tiring, or exceeding resources, which means beyond the person's capacity. Right? So for police officers, this generally means long working hours, constant danger, lack of recognition, poor equipment and facilities, and any family strain due to irregular work schedules. Right? So this leads to problems like high blood pressure or hypertension, insomnia or lack of sleep, PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, or substance abuse like alcohol or dependence on smoke, right? And to manage this kind of stress, there has to be several interventions that should be recommended by the police psychologist, and most common of them are yoga, stress management workshops, counseling, health promotion programs, and balanced workload. Also, ensuring adequate pay, fair promotions, and family time can make a big difference in something that is police stress. Right? Their jobs naturally is stressing, and job of a police psychologist is to help them through these stressful situations. Moving on to police and human relations, this part discusses how the public perceives the police or what the public thinks about police and how those perceptions affect law and order. Right? So when we think about a police person, or when we see about a police, I mean not see about, when we see a police person, we have a certain kind of thought about it, maybe certain emotions triggered. Some of us are fearful of a policeman, some of us just don't care. So there is a lot of public perceptions regarding a police personnel, and this section is about that. So people often associate police with fear or sometimes corruption or bias, and we generally have a distrust about the police. So studies in India show that many citizens avoid approaching the police due to distrust or fear of poor treatment, especially women and minorities, because they are generally considered to be gender insensitive, right? The way they treat a woman might be different from the way they treat a man. The way they treat a majority group would be different from way they treat a minority group. So public has a lot of perceptions about how the police function. So to improve this, the police need to build trust and human relations. So how can they do that? By better communication and empathy. So gender sensitive behavior, having transparency and accountability, and more community engagement, for example, working with local welfare association or youth groups. So, in this regard, a police psychologist is involved in training the police in empathy and cultural sensitivity, helping them in with community engagement and accountability, and regularly evaluating them and getting feedbacks from them, right? So the role of the police psychologist also involves in helping the police people improve their human relations. So in the United States, President Obama's task force on policing also recommended training the police people or the US police in cultural sensitivity, reducing bias, and crisis intervention. This was something that came from the president's task force. So you can imagine how these things are very important. And these are areas where police psychologists play the most important role. Let's discuss the next sensitive area, which is police and special populations. Special populations include people with disabilities, those with mental illness, juveniles or people who are not of legally adult age but would have committed some crime, victims of domestic violence, elderly, and economically disadvantaged individuals or minorities. Right? So for police officers, handling these groups requires a lot of empathy, awareness, and proper training. Right? So the duties of a police psychologist here also includes teaching them about sensitivity and training the police people about how to handle these special groups. So police duty here also includes being sensitive and aware about the special population, and for that they can have awareness training also. Even they can give awareness training to the general public as to how to deal with these special populations. They can even refer such individuals to mental health professionals. For example, under the Mental Health Care Act of 2017, police must take a mentally ill person to a hospital, not to a jail. They must ensure safety, treatment, and dignity for that person. So they should be able to protect such people and not punish them. Now, this is the most important part of the police and special population. The police should help them. They should be able to protect them. They should be able to refer them to mental health professionals. They should be able to make the society sensitive and aware towards special population. So the major job of the police is to protect them and not punish them just because they belong to the special populations. All right. Now the next section and the last section of this video is therapeutic and assessment techniques. So police psychologists also use various scientific tools to assess and support police personnel, and one such therapy is EMDR or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This is used for trauma recovery. So let me explain about EMDR a bit. So this is a psychotherapy technique. It is used to treat trauma and stress related disorders. So this helps people recall very distressing memories while simultaneously engaging in side to side eye movement or other rhythmic stimulation. So what happens is that the therapist would be asking the person to look side to side and engage their eye muscles in that movement while they are recalling any memory that was disturbing to them. So this process activates both sides of the brain, allowing the memory to be reprocessed and lose its emotional intensity. In police psychology, EMDR helps officers recover from traumatic incidents. It reduces anxiety and helps them in regaining mental balance. So it is a very strong psychotherapy principle and is known to work faster than traditional talk therapy or trauma. Here the client also has full control. They decide what to share, how much to revisit, and when to pause. So in summary, EMDR helps police officers process their experience without avoiding them, turning pain into acceptance and resilience. Right? So that is EMDR technique. Now, besides that, they also use psychological tests such as MMPI, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. This is to check the mental health. The Rorschach test, if you remember, for personality assessment, and intelligence and situational tests to assess decision making under pressure, right? And these tools ensure that officers are mentally fit, emotionally stable, and placed in roles suited to their strengths. So the whole purpose is to evaluate suitability, detect stress, and aid mental fitness. So, to summarize the whole video, police psychology is where law enforcement meets psychology. It focuses on understanding police personality, managing occupational stress, improving police community relations, and handling special populations with empathy. The ultimate goal is to enhance police effectiveness, ethical behavior, and mental well being. So, that was all about this unit.
Thank you all for learning with me. If you found the video helpful, make sure you let me know by hitting the like button. Make sure you share the video with your friends too. Subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the new videos. You can reach me by simply dropping a comment. See you in the next one. Till then, happy learning.